Welcome to Dr. Mary Travelbest's 5 Steps to Solo Travel Guide, and this very special episode for women like you who need a little extra support traveling the world, one woman at a time. I've been traveling solo or independently since 1972. Please share this podcast with your parents, loved ones, and future travelers so you make their trips the very best, like Travelbest. In this episode, the FAQ is, what's the difference between travel medical insurance and emergency medical evacuation coverage? Today's special topic is on train travel. And today's mistake was not sleeping on the plane to Europe and jet lag. Travel advice, tips on train travel. So now the FAQ. What's the difference between travel medical insurance and emergency medical evacuation coverage? Travel medical insurance is important coverage if you're in step 3, 4, and 5. These are people who are going abroad, where your U.S. health plan may have limited global coverage or no coverage. Travel medical insurance usually pays for things like ambulance services, doctors and hospital bills, and other medical expenses during your trip. And you can find generous coverage limits of up to $500,000 per person. Depending on your trip, you may not need that level of coverage, but it can add up. I recently broke my wrist in a city where I didn't have coverage, and my insurance is paying. The costs have been huge. I would have been out about $10,000 if I wasn't insured. I've seen the bills. All I had to pay was the deductible. Now, Medicare does not pay for health care outside the U.S., which is step 4 and 5, and in some instances, step 3 in 5 steps to solo travel. There may be a few exceptions in some limited circumstances. Now, some say that travel medical insurance is essential for senior travelers. If COVID is a concern, you can find travel insurance policies that cover COVID-related medical expenses if you contract the virus during your trip. Some who do cover this include these insurance companies: John Hancock, HTH Worldwide, Go Ready, AXA Nationwide, Travel Safe, USI, and AIG. Now, the other part of the question was, what's emergency medical evacuation coverage? Now, this is also important for step 3, 4, and 5 travelers, especially if you're going to a remote area where quality medical care might be hard to find. Emergency medical evacuation insurance pays to get you to the nearest adequate medical facility. You can find coverage of $1 million per person from plenty of firms. And if you've got one you recommend, please let me know. Now, here's a topic, special issue on train travel. Train travel is reliable ground transportation that is appealing to those who prefer not to fly or drive. As a passenger, you can do what you want. You may choose to enjoy the scenery, to sleep, to work, to play, or to make a friend. My most recent train trip was from San Diego to San Luis Obispo on the weekend of July 4th. I took an Amtrak Surfliner train from Solana Beach, California to Guadalupe, California on a busy Friday afternoon. We departed at 12:40 p.m. and I was able to get a seat on the top deck of a 2-deck train and stored my luggage above my seat. Many people were standing in the aisles for up to 20 to 30 minutes, as it was a holiday weekend in a touristy area. The train stopped several times before going on a break in Los Angeles, where the crew changed. Also, the direction of my train car changed in Union Station, Los Angeles. That was so strange for someone like me who is directionally challenged. I stayed in the same seat, but I felt like I was going in a different direction. So from Los Angeles north, we went to another several stops, and the conductor also reminded us that we'd be slowing down to 15 miles an hour in certain spots. This is due to some recent accidents on the train involving pedestrians. So the train was a little slow in some areas, but that didn't matter to me. The view from the train car was outstanding along the journey. I had seen ocean views the entire way from Santa Barbara North to near San Luis Obispo. We arrived in Guadalupe at 8:35 p.m., 40 minutes after our scheduled arrival. It was late, and due to the lack of cell service in a remote area, it was hard to send messages that we'd be late. The train station was small, without even an office. It was a parking lot. The return trip was so different from the way there. Instead of searching many cars for a seat, I was the only one in my business class car when I got aboard in Guadalupe. The operator greeted me with a smile and a welcome snack kit, including some goodies to drink and eat. A few people boarded during the journey, but mostly I had the cab to myself. And when it grew dark on July 4th, it was spectacular for watching fireworks. I suggest you book yourself on a train next July 4th. Find a place where you can see a lot of fireworks and enjoy the moving show. You may have traveled by train in several countries, so tell me about your train travels. Train trips that I've taken include across the US, in Japan, the Shinkansen, in China, the high-speed trains, in Kenya, in Chile, plus Eurail travel throughout France and Germany. Today's mistake: not sleeping on the plane to Europe and jet lag. My first trip across the Atlantic Ocean was a jet lag disaster. It was a step 4 trip. I arrived in London at 9 a.m. and was so tired I couldn't even think straight. I got myself a hotel room and all I wanted to do was sleep. I put my head down and then was awoken by someone who wanted to paint the room. Of course I said no, but he kept on banging. He said he couldn't get paid until he painted. So eventually I let him in to paint, and he did, and then he left. My mistake was not sleeping on the plane, not adjusting my sleep cycle to be in a new time zone. So don't do what I did. Get your time shifted before you get to the airport and sleep on the plane if at all possible. Now for today's travel advice. Tips on train travel. Use trains as an alternative to other transportation, such as driving or flying commercial airlines. It's easier to board and unboard than on a plane with the challenges of airports. Most trains run on a regular schedule and are reliable and safe. I would recommend you take a trip on a train due to the convenience and embrace the relaxation. When you arrive at your destination, you will be so refreshed. I want to bring meaning to your travels, so send me your travel tip or question. You can send it to info@drmarytravelbest.com. You can follow the Facebook page, group, or Instagram. You can send questions on Twitter. You may read your tips in Dr. Travelbest's next book, 5 Steps to Solo Travel, Part B. It's a woman's guide to travel in her prime. You'll find Part A in paperback, ebook, and audiobook on Amazon now.
What's on your travel bucket list? Tell the doctor and her team of women who travel the world seeking the very best. Dr. Travelbest, that is.